We are talking about a bill that you have, and I don't have the number of the bill here, but is it subject to the deadline tomorrow also?
It has already passed the floor. It's being held. It's being held on a motion to reconsider right now. There was some serious debate on the floor about it. There were several members that felt like it was targeted specifically towards Jackson, which is not correct. It's for all municipalities in the state. And
yes, I read this and I thought, did he get this idea from Venezuela or did he get it from Cuba? I mean, I just think it's surprising that anybody, of course, this guy is from Washington, D.C., or has been appointed by the feds, I should say, so maybe it's not so surprising. But for people who don't understand what's going on here, let me give you a little background on here. Ted Henifin is the Jackson water manager. He was appointed third-party manager by the federal court order, and he's taken over the mess from the mayor made, and has been there also in some form or fashion prior to the mayor in different administrations. Now the House bill is, or Senate bill is, and here's the number of the bill, 2889. It passed the state Senate, does the same thing when Mr. Heflin leaves in around 2 years, that should he decide to leave, so it won't come into effect until he leaves, is my understanding. Joel will be able to tell you exactly in a moment or two, and apparently Mr. Heflin's not happy about the Senate bill. He says he's never even talked with David Parker. Yesterday, Wyatt Emmerlich, when he was on with me, found it a bit confusing that Senator Parker was representing the district as far removed from Jackson as possible, DeSoto County. And I guess in the same case, they're talking about Joel Carter, who's from down in Harrison County. But tell me exactly what he wants to do with this one and what your bill does. I think what he is saying is basically we're going to forget about how much you conserve water in the city of Jackson or anybody on the Jackson water system. We're going to charge you per value of your home and not on your water usage.
Yeah, that's what his proposal is, based off of property value. I don't see how that's fair. I mean, it caps at $150, and then for a single person, I believe it's $125 bucks a month. But I mean, there are some serious issues that are not being talked about. I mean, the city of Jackson requires 50 million gallons of water a day, and 30 million of those gallons are just leaking out in the streets. I mean, they're only consuming 15 to 20 that they can calculate. Mm-hmm. So there's a huge waste there. But it's a common sense thing for me. How do you charge someone, from a number out of the pie in the sky? I mean, I don't understand how you bill anyone other than based off of their actual usage. So, and this applies to all municipalities in the state. In my district, we had an issue there as well, and it also requires these municipalities to charge. I mean, anything that there's been a bunch of court cases that have ruled that if any city charges less than what the actual cost of that water is, it's an unlawful donation. So it's against the law. But we've got a bunch of municipalities that are not charging enough for water, therefore they cannot maintain their system. I believe there's 10 appropriation bills out there right now for municipalities wanting money from the legislature to fix problems that shouldn't exist had they charged the proper rates.
Wait a minute. If they're not charging what they should, and they're actually put themselves and their users in default one way or the other, is the oversight on that one Public Service Commission, or where is the oversight?
So the municipalities, they don't have oversight as far as city limits go. Now, a mile outside of city limits, then the PSC is involved with that. They oversee that.
So it's the responsibility of the city, mayor, alderman, councilman, whatever they have.
100%. So the city council will basically have to vote on increasing rates and
so
stuff
how's
like
the Board of Supervisors come into this?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that one because I think the PSC is with them regulating outside of city limits. I don't know that the Board of Supervisors has. You said that there are many of our water systems out there that are actually every gallon they sell, they're actually going into deeper debt. They are, because they're not looking long term as far as maintaining their systems, upgrading, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. They're not doing it, and so they get into a position where they're running up here to the Capitol asking for millions of dollars for infrastructure projects.
As chairman of Energy, how do you make the case to Mr. Henifin or anybody else in the city of Jackson that this is not specifically targeting them?
Well, because it's targeted all municipalities. Now, MML has mentioned they supported the process.
Municipal League.
Right.
Yeah.
And they've come out against the bill since we passed it on the floor. They're wanting a population requirement, and if you do that, then they were wanting 100,000 people in the bill. That targets Jackson. So my goal wasn't to target Jackson. My goal is to keep all these municipalities from coming up to the legislature and asking for money every year.
Mm-hmm. All right, wait a minute. You're saying that the Mississippi Municipal League is in favor of charging per home value?
No,
they didn't address that.
No, they understood that volumetric usage is the proper way to bill.
Yes, yeah.
And they were with us through that part of it. But something got sideways in the committee substitute, and we're trying to work with them through that.
It sounds crazy. Does anybody else do that you know of?
No, I've never heard of that process. I've never heard of anybody getting billed based off of their home value. I can't wrap my mind around it. It doesn't make any sense.
I can't either. It seems to me when you start getting down to individuals, and we're not talking about numbers and everything else, you're there as an individual, a family within the confines of that home there, not a number. And they're so different and varied that the train wrecks that this could cause, even to bring this up, just seems crazy. What does this do to businesses?
The businesses, from my understanding, can be charged all the way up to $600. So, like I said, I don't know how you bill unless you're looking at actual usage. I mean, we've got just in the city of Jackson, since we're talking about it. I mean, the metering system is all destroyed. In the bill, it says that if you don't. If the billing could go back to the last 6 months and you pay the average of the last 6 months, the problem is some people haven't gotten bills in 20
they haven't gotten water.
Yeah.
Some of them hadn't gotten water from the last 6 months.
Yeah, I mean, so that presents a problem in itself. So the bill's work in progress. I look forward to working with my House colleague, Scott Bounds, and working through this and making sure we have a good bill.
Any part of this go back to one of the causations of this that some people say, and that's the way that these contracts are let as far as affirmative action is concerned?
Yes, you can make a very valid argument on that.
I mean, how do you not make that argument? And again, we're talking with Senator Joel Carter, a Republican from District 49, Harrison County. But, Joel, how can you not make that argument when you start looking at this and you go back and say a lot of this is, as you just alluded to, the water meters themselves?
Yeah, I mean, they've got rules in place that favor certain people to get these contracts, and then they're subbing the work out, and before you know it, all his money's gone. So
and everybody's happy about that a minority group got this or that, but then you have the problems that most of the minorities in that area are suffering from this ultimately. So we'll talk more with Joel Carter about this. Anything else going on within his department and or his committee? And as I mentioned, the deadline tomorrow, I guess, is at the end of when you guys gavel out, or is it 5 o'clock? When is the official deadline?
It'll be tomorrow after the last committee report's filed, so midnight.
More with Joel Carter coming up next. Let me get back to Senator Joel Carter, and we're talking about the water situation in the bill itself. So where do you think the bill is now? Do you think it has a chance, or do you feel like maybe in the last several days it's lost favor?
No, it definitely has a chance. It's going to the House.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, I think there's some work that still needs to be done on it, and I look forward to working with my colleague.
What changes are we talking about that you'd like to make that you think it's going to make it better?
Well, it's that whole 6 month average. I mean, if someone hasn't gotten a bill in the last year, it's going to be hard to come up with a 6 month average. So maybe a temporary base rate. I don't know what that number would be. We're just going to have to work our way through it.
Well, this is what has to worry you, and I think more so the people in Jackson and whomever's getting the water from these folks. But if this is the solution from Ted Henifin, maybe he doesn't have a plan B.
You look, and there's another issue. I mean, the pipe sizes throughout the city are not they're not big enough. I mean, the whole water system is it's a nightmare.
There was an article that I found on I think it was national or international media. Somebody wrote it with some key points to Fox News, and there with some contributions that the people of Jackson have been alerted that they're going to be periodically without water for the next 15 years. How's that for a great chamber of commerce?
How's that for the capital city?
Yes. Which was not a good story at all. Somebody asked also on C-Spire text line, 601-879-4395, what about renters? And I thought, well, I guess renters is going to be tagged in $150. I'm not sure how you can escape that.
I don't either. I mean, I was looking at the federal aid that was coming in, and everyone knows Flint, Michigan has a big water crisis. They've been talking about it for years.
Mm-hmm.
They received $100 million in federal aid. Jackson has received $800 million in federal aid. So the money's there. There needs to be a plan of action, and they need to get busy. They need to stop talking. This is it's a public health risk. So.
We also know that there's some lead in the water. Apparently, it's not to the point to be concerned about. Some people say, some people don't. But a lot of that might be in the local, the homeowners' hookups. So how do you get rid of that? There's no way to do that unless you pay them to do it.
Yeah, and I don't know how you solve that issue.
I don't either. So it's going to be one of those things that you folks who are mayors and city leaders in other parts of this state, I know it's underground, but you've got to start talking about it and start doing something little by little, so this doesn't happen to you guys. But that's $1,800. You get somebody in a one-room apartment in Jackson that maybe travel half the year, but that's $1,800 for the year for just $150 for water.
And look at inflation right now. What it costs for eggs. I mean, I never thought that I'd pay that much for eggs. And
I was just mentioning it earlier. If you're getting your gas bill, and we were alerted to this, the electric bill and the gas bill, hang on, because you're going to see some spikes in there, and it's going to cost you a heck of a lot more because of everything that trickles down from the Keystone Pipeline and on, our natural gas supply, and where the hell he's selling this to other countries and everything else. And it's just aggravating. At the same time, this guy is sitting there over the weekend talking about how great things are. We are creating more jobs. We got more prosperity. We've got a greater buying power than we've ever had. And you wonder what planet this guy's living on.
You got Pinocchio as president.
But you also go back and you say you're not embarrassed to say things like that, apparently because your people have told you to say it, because it will resonate with some people. And that's a little bit scary that it does resonate with some people out there. So anything else in your committee that you want to mention, sir?
So it's funny. I have this bill that deals with 811, the mark before you dig.
Yeah.
And it has been the hardest bill to work on this session. I would have never imagined that. It's just the different companies and that are affected by the bill. I mean, there's been
caught you off guard.
Yeah,
caught you off guard.
It did catch me off guard. I have a bunch of repealer bills in committee. We're trying to figure out a way to solve all this massive telemarketer calling. I mean, I don't know what's happened over the last year, but I know personally my phone blows up daily.
Yep.
From random numbers. It's gotten
worse. You can
worse.
block them and it doesn't do any good.
No, they just spoof another number. But it's gotten out of control. PSC does not want.
Is that related to the 811 bill, or
no? It's a separate bill.
Okay, tell me the problems of the 811 bill, or where you want to modify or change that.
They're looking at different timelines of when they're required to mark, and what constitutes as an emergency, to where they can just go excavate without calling 811. So just a lot of details involved with that. I mean, in my neighborhood back home, I believe it was AT&T came in and they had a third-party contractor come in and lay conduit in, and there's underground power in that neighborhood. And I mean, they hit multiple Mississippi Power lines when they were putting the conduit in, and several of the homeowners were out of power. I lost a phase, and when they were putting it in front of my house. So
wow, AT&T.
AT&T was.
Well, I will tell you this, and I'll go back and say this again and again because, of course, in full disclaimer, I do some endorsements for C Spire because they're a great Mississippi company. But the difference in putting the fiber down at our home between AT&T and C Spire was night and day. C Spire came by with a technology truck, digger or whatever you call it, and they put that thing down just with the state-of-the-art equipment. Several days or weeks later, AT&T there was a bunch of people who spoke Spanish and was digging in the yard, and I'm not sure if they were entrenching for war, but it was altogether two different ways of getting things done. And I thought, geez, come on, guys.
Well, I love all of the people that report to the Energy Committee, so I'm not going to show any bias there.
All right. Anything else, sir?
No, I'm just hoping that we can, once the Senate bills go over to the other chamber and the House bills come over, I just hope that we can get along, sing Kumbaya this year, and get back out there on the campaign trail and pass a good budget and do some good things for the state.
Well, since you're chair of energy, have you got any bill ready to go in the future to how we supplant taxes? I know this is transportation also, but how do we supply how do we have all these charging stations where we need them across the state and supplant the taxes on gasoline?
So right now, I have a bill that deals with the charging stations right now. Basically what it does is it gives authority to the third parties that make these charging stations to where they can go into service areas and install these. Currently, only the IOUs, the investor-owned utilities, can do it. So it's a little small language change in statute, so we can go ahead and get that process going. There's a lot of federal money coming in through MDOT for these charging stations. So we're doing a little cleanup language there and hope to start seeing some of those charging stations deployed throughout the state.
Until we get charging that is commensurate with the time factor of gasoline, I don't see convenience stores today supplanting chargers for gasoline. It's a different in and out situation.
Look, I'm going to be honest with you, and I've been very forthful and truthful about this. I'm not a big electric car guy because I've watched the lithium mining process and what it does to the environment, and nobody talks about it. And everybody talks about this green energy, and it's not green. It's terrible for the environment.
And people don't want to mention that, but it's somewhere down the line we'll find out. We'll find out just like the light bulbs and the toilets and the plastic bags versus paper bags and everything else. It will hit us in the future, and it's not going to be pretty. I think the best thing is this, and the most common sense, is to go full-fledged, let the marketplace take care of the advancement and the desire and the need and the acceptance of electric in areas, much like we did, to be honest with you, the hybrid.
Yep.
The hybrid is not a bad idea, especially now in the gas situation as we have it. But let the marketplace take care of that. There are some places where diesel is better, some places where regular gasoline is some better, and there's going to be the situation on the farm. You're not going to have a lot of electric situations, but in the 8 major cities. So let the marketplace take care of that.
I was in Canada in December, and they're actually testing hydrogen cell batteries. And they've been doing very well up there, and it's pretty cold up in Canada. And typically, lithium-based batteries don't do well in the cold weather. So I'm going to be interested to see how that plays out, and it's a much safer, less toxic for the environment. So
when you see a diesel generator having to use and work overtime to charge some of these, you just look at it and you say, is this you people with Harvard degrees, are you looking at this the same way we are on the farm? You got to go back to Jerry Clower. God, Jerry, the wisdom of Jerry Clower, where you can be educated beyond your means. And I think he tagged that one. Joel Carter. Joel, thank you, sir. Appreciate you coming in.
Thanks for the invite.
Anytime, my man.
All right, buddy.
Senator Joel Carter of District 49, Harrison County, and Chair of